Sorry about that, Justin, but we know you'll take time to get your revenge in plenty. So, ladies and gentlemen, your best of order, please, for Mrs. Justine Westwood. Thank you.
Very much, Bernie, for that kind introduction. I don't do many of these speeches, so when I was asked to attend tonight, I thought I'd better check how long I should speak for. So I asked Bernie that question, and he told me, no longer than it takes Murray Bell to make love to a beautiful woman. So thank you very much for listening. But Mr. Chairman, top table guests, ladies and gentlemen, it falls to me, your allocated lassie for the evening, to take up the challenge of replying to Jack's speech. Jack is a man full of fascinating and interesting things to say. However, tonight, he's kept that all to himself. But what a great toast it was, or so Jack told me. I'd like to thank him for being so lovely to us girls. Unfortunately, it falls to me to lower the tone and talk about men. Not that I'm in any way suggesting that those two things go hand in hand together. But seriously though, I must thank Jack for his gracious toast to the lassies. He's got a biting humour, but some of you may not know he's also quite a humanitarian. He donates large sums of money to charity, but is very humble and insists on remaining anonymous. Sometimes he doesn't even sign the cheques. And our kids have even nicknamed Jack Exorcist, because every time he comes home, the spirits disappear. But Jack was absolutely right when he said that men try to please us women. Yes, they try, but like Sigmund Freud, most men don't know what women want. Some of them get very strange ideas indeed, including Robert Burns. He wrote a poem called 9 Inch Will Please a Lady. I can't imagine what that's about. And it's long been observed that a woman can make an average man great and a great man average. Burns could not have attained the status he has so long enjoyed were it not for the fact that he was surrounded by remarkable women. And talking of remarkable women, Grant Urquhart came home one day recently and said to Sue, "Would you still love me if I won the lottery?" "Yes," she replied, "but I'd miss you." I was also talking to Ken Cunningham's wife earlier today, who told me that he went into Boots for some Viagra. "Can I get it across the counter?" he said. "You might need 2 tablets for that." But Jack and I, however, have found the secret to making a marriage last. Twice a week, we go to a nice restaurant, have a little wine, some good food and companionship. He goes on Tuesdays and I go on Fridays. I do take him everywhere, but he keeps finding his way back. And he's very well equipped, Jack. Hold on, ladies. He has an electric blender, an electric toaster, and an electric guitar. He then complained that there was too many gadgets around the house and there was nowhere to sit. So I bought him an electric chair. And ladies, like me, I'm sure that you will all have noticed that the great majority of the men of this club really resemble a varied collection of inanimate objects. Some, like Harry Preston, so I'm told, are like computers, hard to figure out and never have enough memory. Others are like blenders. You need one, but you're not quite sure why. Many, like Peter over here, are like lava lamps. Fun to look at, but not all that bright. And finally, of course, there's Hunter Kirkpatrick. He's like premature ejaculation. You know he's coming, but there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. However, it is always a delight to see the great and the beautiful Head Sports Club here tonight. For example, George the Rocket Stevenson, the kind of person that Dr. Spooner would have described as a shining wit. And of course, our old pal Charlie Bell. Charlie recently, you don't know, fell down the stairs here at Hughenden without spilling any of the 8 glasses of red wine he had with him. Apparently managed to keep his mouth shut the whole way down. And I also suspect that not many of you know that we have a prize winner here at the top table. Yes, our very own Bernie Mitchell was at the Chelsea Flower Show last year when he was bet £50 to strip off and run through the gathering naked. Being a bold sort of a chap, he took up the challenge, ran through the crowd to loud cheers and applause, and not only won the bet, but also the prize for the best ride arrangement. Robert Burns, however, who despite his death, aged 37, united music, realism, comedy and humanity in a manner seldom seen. He was a true champion of the common man. But would he still have been today when the common man is like Ramsay Nesbitt? What would he have made of contemporary Glasgow, where one definition of an atheist is a bloke who goes to a Rangers Celtic match to watch the football? But some men will use sports as an excuse. Take the gentleman I know, who will remain nameless, who was sitting reading his Racing Post when his wife sneaked up behind him and whacked him on the head with a frying pan. "What was that for?" he cried. "That was for the piece of paper in your trouser pocket with the name Mary Rose written on it," said she. "Don't be daft," he explained. 2 weeks ago, when I went to the races, Mary Rose was the name of the horse that I bet on." So his wife seemed satisfied, apologised, and went off to carry on with the housework. Days later, he was sitting again in his chair, when this time she nailed him again with a frying pan, knocking him out cold. When he came round, he said, "What the hell was that for?" "Your horse phoned," she said. And ladies, I received a chain letter recently. Unlike most chain letters, this one, despite being postmarked Bears Den, didn't cost anything. It read, "This letter was started by women like yourself in the hope of bringing relief to other tired and discontented women. Just bundle up your husband or boyfriend and send him to the woman whose name appears at the top of the list. Then, add your name to the bottom of the list and send a copy of this letter to 5 of your friends who are equally tired and discontented. When your names come to the top of the list, you will receive 3,125 men, and some of them are bound to be better than the one you gave up." And you may not have heard, but when God was just about done creating humans, he had 2 parts left over. He couldn't decide how to split them between Adam and Eve, so he thought he might just as well ask them. He told them one of the things he had left was a thing that would allow the owner to pee while standing up. "It's a very handy thing," God told them, "and I was wondering if either one of you had a preference for it." Well, Adam jumped up and down and begged, "Oh, please give that to me. I'd love to be able to do that. It seems like just the sort of thing a man should have. Please give it to me." On and on he went like an excited little boy. So Eve just smiled and told God that Adam really wanted it that badly, he could have it. So God gave Adam the thing that allowed him to pee standing up. Adam was so excited, he just started spraying all over the place. First on the side of a rock, then he wrote his name in the sand, and then he tried to see if he could hit a tree stump 10 feet away, laughing with delight all the while. God and Eve just watched with amusement, and then God said to Eve, "Well, I guess you're kind of stuck with the last thing that I had left." "What's that called?" asked Eve. "Brains," said God. I'm going to stop comparing men and women now because I don't actually believe in this Mars and Venus stuff. You know the sort of thing I mean, when women can't read maps and men don't listen. I think women and men can be equally good at the same things. Multitasking, for example. Men can't multitask, so people say. Well, I think that Robert Burns' impressive record of 11 children by 5 women in 13 years shows that men most certainly can multitask, especially if it's something that's important to them. Burns' wife Jean, however, for going to Burns' funeral and giving birth to his last child on the same day, probably wins the multitasking prize in that family. But a lass without her laddie is a sorry sight to see, like a haggis without the oatmeal, or a golf ball without the tee, or a kilt without the tartan, or which doesn't show the knee. Without a laddie for a husband, the nights are long and cold. We know this for a fact, because by Burns we have been told. For all that, and all that, he says the man's the gold. So if a lassie wants a laddie, she need not search the whole world o'er. but must turn her ye to Scotland and find what she's looking for. For the bonny flower of Scotland is one that never wilts, and it makes a lassie say with pride, down with trousers, up with kilts. Lassies, please raise your glasses now and join me in a toast to the laddies.
Yeah.